99% of founders make this exact mistake when they're starting out. They think if you build it, they will come. No, 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 this never works. After getting millions of views on my content, hundreds of thousands of users for my product, and building my own business to over $1 million a year, I'd like to think that I've cracked the code a little bit. But here's the thing. You don't need a crazy idea, you don't need funding, and you don't even need an amazing product. You just need to master one skill: attention. This is usually the difference between successful and failed founders. So in this video, I'm gonna share with you my 3-part framework for getting attention on your business, on your product, and getting users. I teach this method to members of the Starter Story Growth Accelerator, and many of them have gone on to go viral, get their first users, and some of them even making more than $10,000 a month after doing this. Oh, and stick to the end because I'm gonna be showing you a real-world example of a business built in Starter Story that's now making $12,000 a month. This is the $1 Million Attention Playbook. Let's go. So before we dive into the whole playbook, this session was part of the Starter Story Growth Accelerator. The accelerator is designed for people who are serious about building and getting attention and taking their business or product to the next level. Some of the strategies and tactics I'm about to talk about today are part of the accelerator. That's all for now. Let's dive in. Let's talk about the power of attention. I like to preface, before we go into the framework or anything like that, I want to just share a little bit about my story. This is the original Starter Story landing page. Stories about millennials starting businesses. This is the business that I thought that was going to be successful if I just built it, and then people would show up. There was already some similar businesses out there that were doing something similar, making some money. So I built this, put it out there, and just hoped that the thing would just get users, get traction, and then be able to monetize it and all that stuff. So I hit publish on the website, created the Facebook page, created the Instagram page. I even emailed some people about it, and I was just now waiting for the success to happen, right? Looking at the Google Analytics screen and hoping that, people were going to show up because, I had this business. I think that was going to be successful. There were other successful people doing it. And I was like, okay, that's all I got to do. And then sure enough, nothing, zilch, nada, no users come to the website. Obviously, hindsight is 2020. I should have marketed it. I should have put it out there. And I just expected to be successful because I saw what other people were doing and just copied them. So I go looking for solutions. How can I solve this problem? And sure enough, over a long enough period of time, I realized that after studying lots of other founders and lots of other stories and actually reading into it, if you build it, they will not come. And, sometimes you'll hear, if you build it, they will come. Every founder realizes at some point, sometimes it takes weeks, months, years, or even decades. If you build it, they will not come. Good products are built on distribution, attention, and you can have an amazing product and have no users, or you can have a shit product with pretty good marketing and you can have customers. And that's probably something that you guys have noticed when you go and look at trying to start something, or you're looking at competitors, or you're looking at other people in the space. These guys' products, they're really not that good. Like, this doesn't work. This thing doesn't work. Like, this is a huge bug. This is a huge problem. Yet they still make all this money, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense. This is how I was what I was realizing. And this is my aha moment when I realized the secret to making money is not about having the perfect idea or the feature or building on the right trend or all these things. It's about attention and distribution. So I go into deep work mode, trying to figure out how can I get more eyeballs on Starter Story? How can I get more eyeballs on my thing? And after months of work, what it felt like, or at least months of work, a long time, I eventually create one piece of content. And this wasn't the first piece of content I created, but I was creating lots of stuff. I was like, how can I get more people to see this thing that I created? And I created this Reddit post right here. And certainly wasn't my first Reddit post, but it was the first one that actually took off. And this Reddit post got about 400 upvotes, which isn't crazy. It didn't go viral. It was simply taking one of the stories from my website, which I was building a media property, a blog, a website that would be monetized by potential sponsorship. So, eyeballs was the name of the game. And tens of thousands of people viewed this post. And this was the piece of content that created the inflection point for me. And this changed everything. I doubled down. I did more Reddit posts. I started posting in other places online. I started using Reddit comment strategy. And this is how I got thousands of users, hundreds of people talking about my product, followers, and people telling me that they loved my product and it was useful for them and it inspired them. And this was the inflection point, right? This is when I found a channel. I doubled down on that and I just kept doing more of it. And this is what led to Starter Story becoming an actual business that had actual users, where people were emailing me to sponsor the website for thousands of dollars, all because I focused on attention and distribution. And the reality is, I've talked to thousands of founders. You guys have maybe watched some of the YouTube videos, and we have thousands of case studies. You'll realize when you read all these case studies is that Reddit's not the only distribution channel. There are hundreds of distribution channels out there, and there are thousands of different ways to exploit them. The way that I did it on Reddit was just this very kind of specific thing in a very specific subreddit, and it worked. And there's lots of other subreddits, and there's lots of other ways to do it. And you'll read in our case studies on Starter Story is every single founder will talk about their channel, their thing that worked for them. Every successful business I know, at least especially in the solopreneur and solo founder bootstrapped space, is all built off of attention, distribution, and a good channel. You don't need a life-changing idea. You just need attention on your idea. If you understand this concept, I think you can turn any idea into $1 million business. But there is one caveat. It's important to say that attention can't turn any idea as it stands into $1 million business. But attention will give you the information and data necessary about what needs to change if it's not going to be $1 million business. And that actually goes for most products. If you have a business that's not going to be $1 million business because you can't scale in this way or has this one hole in it, that is okay. And the only way to uncover that is through getting attention on it and finding out that it's not going to work. And there's another element, which is actually talking to people once you get that attention that will help you uncover that. So if you feel skeptical about your product being successful or your ability to scale or whatever you're building, that's normal and that's good. Attention will solve that problem. This is what I'm coining the BAT framework, which is really, really simple. So my goal is to keep this framework super simple so that it will also work for virtually any business, I think. Okay, this is the BAT framework. Build, attention, talk. B-A-T, build, attention, talk. B, build the product. A, get attention on it. T, talk to potential customers that come from that attention. It's really as simple as that, but I'm gonna dive a little bit more into it. Build, attention, talk. You have 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week. You should be spending 20% of your time building the product, 40% of your time getting attention on the product and making sure that you convert that attention into users that you talk to, which you should be spending 40% of your time talking to those users, getting feedback, taking that data and that information from talking to those users and funneling that back into the build. This is overly simplified on purpose. But the first thing that's important is that it's 80-20. So you are spending 80% of your time marketing and talking to users and 20% of your time building. This is overly simplified. You can't have one without any of these others. You can't just build and get attention and not talk to users. And you can't just get attention and talk to users and not build anything, right? I believe if you can do all these three things in a somewhat balanced way, generally at the same time, you will win. It won't happen overnight, but you will win. If you can do all these three things over time, you'll make more money than you can ever imagine, but it doesn't happen overnight. So I'll explain this with an example. It's a really, really simple example, but hopefully it will help clarify things. So B, you build a landing page, a simple landing page, just a one-page landing page, whatever. You share it with your network. A, that's attention. You already have people that follow you on LinkedIn or whatever that already trust you. That is like the most highest leverage form of getting attention for you right now. Maybe, not you specifically, but for most people that don't have an audience or something like that. From that attention, from your network, from those posts or emails or whatever you do, capture those emails and you get on interview calls, you DM and email these people relentlessly. That's talk. That's talking to customers. Then from talking to those customers, you take that feedback and you make changes to your product, your copy, your offer based on what those people told you and the data that you got from those people, not necessarily data from like surveys or something like that, data that you got in your gut from talking to a few people and seeing what those trends are. Then you go and try to get more attention. You go and do a Reddit post. A, attention. That attention gets converted to emails and further calls or DMs or whatever. And then you talk to those users. Obviously, let's say 100 people give you attention on it, 3 people you end up talking to. That's okay. That's the attention funnel, right? Then you take that feedback again, you iterate and you make more changes to the product. You add a feature, you remove a feature, you change your copy, whatever. Then you go and get more attention. Let's say a piece of data you got from those customers was that, oh yeah, I browsed this other subreddit. That's information that you got from that interview or customer interview or talking to that customer. You go and take that and do more Reddit posts. So you take that information not only to the build, but also the marketing. You will get more attention. You do a few more smart cold emails or Reddit posts if those worked, or if you got information about those, and then you talk to those users and you funnel it back. So it's like an attention flywheel, right? You're talking, getting attention, talking to customers, and then funneling that back into changing the product. And this is what happens. This is not something that happens in a month. This is what we've been doing at Starter Story for years. This is what I believe is like generally what companies with product market fit do, right? It's just improving the product. Maybe it's not as much as build, but it's improve. And that always comes from getting attention, talking to customers. Okay, stop there real quick before we continue. If you've been struggling to get users on your business, attention on your product, I want to invite you to join the Growth Accelerator. Over the past 7 years of building Starter Story, I've learned firsthand that attention and distribution are the most important parts of any business. You can have an amazing product, but if you don't get attention on it, it means nothing. That's why I built the Growth Accelerator. It's a 28-day sprint where you get the operating system I've used to get hundreds of millions of views on your product and thousands of customers. So if you're ready to get traction on your business, head to the first link in the description and check out the Growth Accelerator. If you're serious, I hope to see you in there. But now let's get back to the video. Okay, let's go into each one into more detail. So let's go into the build phase. Let's dive into build real quick. We're gonna go through each element of the BAT framework, build, attention, talk. So generally speaking, 20% of your time should be spent building the product, iterating, and making changes on it. And a lot of times that is really just adding features or removing features, which is one of the most elusive things is that I see is people adding features that shouldn't be added. So just by default, 20% of your time is spent building it, not 50%, and definitely not 80%. Building is necessary, but I don't think it's all that important. Obviously, you need to have a product, but by first principles, a product will not generate attention to users. You can build something, put it online, and it can never, ever get visited by someone, ever. And that is the harsh reality of a lot of products and a lot of things. Even just being on an app store or something like that doesn't guarantee anything. Some rules for the build phase, I want to keep this simple, is avoid building unnecessary features. If someone didn't tell you they needed this, do not build it, right? If you have this feeling in your gut that you need to build this one feature or customers won't like it, don't do that. You didn't have someone tell you. What is the point of building something if no one tells you they wanted it? Avoid building if your product is starved for attention. If you don't have any attention, don't build. There's no point in building if you don't have attention. Avoid building if you haven't talked to users or customers and gotten data and specific feedback, right? Anything that you build, if you really only had 20% time, you'd only have time to build the things that people actually asked you for. So avoid building unless you actually have that data. And avoid, even if you do have that data, avoid building something because one person told you they needed it. Not all feedback is created equal. It may not be your customer. They may be unique. Build things based on multiple insights. And we're going to talk about the power of talking to more and more people because that will make that part a lot easier. Okay, some tips. If you inherently love to build things, you still got to build things. Instead, treat building as a reward. So reward yourself for building after you do some attentioneering and after you talk to some customers. I like to save my build time for the shallow hours. So don't do build stuff during deep work because you're probably already really good at building and you don't need that deep concentration to write that piece of copy and make it perfect. That's a deep work activity. Or working on, a strategy thing or, just something that is hard, new, scary. That is the deep work stuff. What I like to do, because I really like to build stuff, is like, oh, okay, we got to build that thing, but I'll save that for the weekend when I have those couple extra hours and I'm just kind of chilling and I'll build that part. So I like build on the weekends, attention, and talk on the weekdays. Jacob said, I need to make a rule that I cannot open my code editor during deep work. I just wrote this on my reflection doc and realized how my perspective has changed in the last month. And Jacob's an awesome example of someone who's building something really cool and really focused on attention. He got like millions of views on TikTok for his service. Okay, so if 20% of your time is building, 40% of your time should be spent getting attention to your product and making sure that you convert that attention into users, a percentage of that attention into users. So you can have an amazing product, but without attention, you won't get a single customer. We kind of talked about that. That's a fact, right? Just by first principles, there's no way that you could get a customer without attention. So by the same logic, I believe the more attention you can get on your product, the more chances you have to get customers. And the more attention you get, the more data you can get on why your product sucks and what needs to change. So like I said earlier, you may not have the $1 million idea, but attention will get you to the $1 million idea. Some rules and tips for the attention phase. Attention doesn't mean viral. You do not need 1 million views or followers. You do not need an audience. You simply need to get in front of more people. So 10 potential users is an order of magnitude better than 1 potential user. And 100 potential users is an order of magnitude better than that, right? 100 potential users may convert to 5 actual paying users. So that's all that really needs to happen. It doesn't need to be 1 million. With Starter Story, it was, 1,000 people on my email list before it was monetized. And that wasn't 1 million, right? It was a couple Reddit posts that got me there. It's better to have a small amount of really passionate users than a bunch of not passionate people. That's especially when starting out. You only need 1 customer, right? You'll know there will be more in the future that you can get. With attention, there's no silver bullet or perfect channel that I could tell you right now. You have to try a lot of things. You have to look at what's actually working for other successful businesses right now. That Reddit thing, that is 7 years old, right? I posted that 6 or 7 years ago. That's probably not going to work now, but I guarantee you there's 1 million other things that's working. What are we doing at Starter Story right now? We're doing YouTube, right? I'm going to practice what I preach here is that we are going where the attention is. And this is from studying other businesses and looking at trends and seeing where those eyeballs are for your specific customer. So that means trying a lot of things and doing research. When things work, do them again. Do them differently, but do them again and just do more of them. That's important too. You should never automate or use AI for the attention process because this is very much like trying to find product market fit. If you go and just generate something with ChatGPT and put it onto LinkedIn, it's not going to get likes. It's not going to work. People can see through that kind of thing, and it doesn't work. At this point, it's about doing the absolute best because it is such a small amount of people. You got to do it right to get it to see if it could potentially work. It is important to get attention from the right users. I kind of explained this before. If you made say an Instagram reel about what you had for breakfast and it got 1 million views, that's not going to lead to a single customer for a SaaS app, right? That's less valuable than 100 potential customers seeing a Reddit post. They have the money, they'll pay you. So think about intent when it comes to attention. And then this is important, but you must actually capture a percentage of that attention, right? You get 1,000 people to your website. I hope that you can convert 1%, some percentage of that to people that you can actually talk to. This is usually done by collecting emails, but it's not the only way to do it. But it's important to capture attention because if you get attention, but you don't talk to those users, you don't learn from them, then it's useless. Let's go to the talk section and we'll go through this one. All right. So it's not a perfect number, but I think about 40% of your time should be spent talking to users, getting feedback, making sales, taking all this data and building your customer knowledge asset, which I'll talk about, and funneling these insights back into the build phase and the attention phase of the flywheel. So just like building is nothing without attention, attention is nothing if you don't talk to these people and understand their needs, pains, wants, desires. So one way I like to think about this is that these people that gave you attention, that watched your Instagram reel or read your Reddit post, these are real people with real problems, and they are your potential, some of them are your potential customers. And isn't that crazy? It's like you're almost there. You have these people on the hook. Now all you have to do is reel them in, right? If you talk to them, and this is what I think is amazing, you almost have them. And if you talk to them, you will unlock the secrets that will lead them to handing over money to you. The gold mine is sitting right in front of you, and all you have to do is dig your hand in and do the work, right? And I want to repeat this one again because I wrote this and just it really felt powerful to me, especially looking back on all the mistakes that I've made and what hindsight. If you talk to them, you will unlock the secrets that will lead them to handing over their money to you. They won't do it right away, but you will unlock the secrets that will lead to them doing that. 99% of people who launch businesses, they don't talk to anybody. A lot of founders are introverts, and you might be too. I am as well. It's scary to talk to people. You might get rejected. People might not show up to your calls. They might tell you your product sucks. They might just say no. All these things suck, but they're part of the process. All you have to do is be curious, ask questions, and let your potential customers tell you about their problems and just let them talk, right? You'll be amazed at what happens if you simply do this. And I'm just gonna keep going on this now because I think it's so important. It doesn't matter what you're building. If you're building an app that's a $5 app, you still talk to customers. What is the value of talking to customers? I think that if I could put a number on it, one IRL in real life conversation where you got to sit face to face with your potential customer, I think it's worth $1,000. And that money on the scale. So like, yes, one of them might not be worth that much, but you may have a $10,000 conversation with someone, right? This money represents, if you do enough of them, this money represents the insane information that you extract from them. And this information is nowhere to be found on the internet, packaged in such an easy to consume way. Sure, you can find it on the internet, but there's so much information out there that it's hard to parse what that customer would say or what they wouldn't. That is the power of conversations. And I like to think of every customer conversation that you have adds a notch in your belt that represents the full nebulous knowledge of your customers, what they need, want, and desire. So think of the knowledge of your customer like an asset. You don't know that much about them right now, maybe, or you know a certain amount about them. But every time you talk to them, you learn new things and you become more empathetic to that customer and what they need. And if you decide you want to serve the same customer over years, then this really builds. If you do this over a long period of time, for example, this is kind of what we do at Starter Story. We know who our customer is. And over time, we've gotten better at understanding what that is, but there's still so much more. That is the asset. That is the $1 million asset. You can't put a price on it, but your knowledge of the customer is what you can turn into $1 million businesses over and over. So that's how powerful it is. It's not just one business. It is an entire customer segment, right? And this is why you see the same people launching the same businesses over and over. They sell their business and they go start another one, which is very adjacent, or they have multiple businesses that all kind of serve that customer. They're not building multiple businesses. They're building one huge business that all serves the same customer. My favorite example of this is this guy, Tom. He built a business selling AI children's books. It's called selfarama.com. And I asked him, I was on a call with them and I asked him, hey, are you worried about like AI or ChatGPT like just replacing your business, like Stable Diffusion, just launching your features and taking your business? And I loved his answer because he was so confident about it. And he said that he wasn't in the AI business, even though his business is one of those AI businesses, right? He told me that he wasn't in the AI business. He was in the business of children's gifts, and children's gifts will never go away, right? He sells like basically gifts that grandmothers buy for their children. Grandmothers will always buy gifts for their children, and they will always have similar pains, wants, needs, and desires that will never go away. AI is just the vehicle for him to do that right now. And the growth tactics he used, those will come and go. But giving gifts to children will never go away. And over time, he will know his customer better than anyone else. And he's not in the AI business. He's in the children's books business, right? That's thinking about it from the customer. So talking to customers has 3 massive advantages. Number 1, these conversations build up your customer knowledge asset, which we just talked about. Number 2, these conversations give you the data on what you need to build, what you need to change, or even what you need to market differently. So just having these conversations gives you very valuable data. And potentially one of maybe just like a nice little extra icing on the cake is these conversations, these talking to customers is a form of sales. These people will likely buy your product or back you as an entrepreneur through word of mouth. They want to get in your camp. They are early adopters and they want to buy your thing and they want to tell people about your thing and they want to evangelize what you're doing. So those are 3 huge things. But that is basically the BAT framework, the BAT framework. Thanks for coming, guys. I'm excited to see what you guys do and get your feedback and see what happens.